Every Arizona real estate licensee is expected to perform their duties with honesty, integrity, and competence. The public relies on real estate professionals not only for their ability to market and close transactions, but also for their knowledge, judgment, and ethical decision-making. However, with this trust comes a clear legal boundary. A licensee must not provide professional services or advice outside their area of expertise. This limitation protects both consumers and the industry's reputation, ensuring that advice given by real estate professionals remains accurate, lawful, and within the scope of their training. Under Commissioner's Rule R4-28-1101H, a licensee must not act in a capacity that requires expertise beyond what they are competent to provide unless they engage a qualified professional. This rule reinforces that while agents are expected to understand real estate laws, contracts, and market conditions, they are not attorneys, engineers, home inspectors, accountants, or surveyors. Offering advice in these specialized areas may not only mislead a client, but can expose the licensee to civil liability and disciplinary action under ARS Section 32-2153A3, which allows for suspension or revocation for conduct that demonstrates incompetence or dishonesty. For example, if a buyer asks a licensee whether a home's foundation crack poses a structural problem, the agent should not attempt to interpret or diagnose the issue themselves. Instead, the licensee should recommend that the buyer hire a licensed structural engineer or inspector to evaluate the concern. By referring the client to a qualified professional, the agent fulfills their duty of reasonable skill and care under R4-28-1101A and avoids giving advice outside their competence. Similarly, if a client asks about the tax implications of purchasing an investment property, the licensee should not attempt to calculate depreciation schedules or estimate taxable gains. Instead, the agent should advise the client to consult a tax professional, or CPA. A licensee who oversteps into providing accounting or legal advice could face claims of negligent misrepresentation, as well as discipline from the Arizona Department of Real Estate, ADRE. The landmark case, Lombardo v. Albu, 1996, reaffirmed that a real estate agent's duty of care includes recognizing when to refer clients to appropriate experts. A licensee's competence also extends to understanding the scope of local regulations, zoning laws, and environmental issues. While agents should be familiar with how zoning affects property use, they must avoid giving authoritative legal interpretations. For example, if a buyer asks whether a parcel can be subdivided, the proper response would be to explain that the agent is not a zoning attorney and to refer the client to the county's planning department or a land use lawyer. Giving incorrect guidance about zoning or land division could result in costly consequences for the client and potential liability for the agent. In addition to avoiding advice outside their area of expertise, licensees have a continuing obligation to maintain and expand their knowledge within their professional scope. The ADRE requires that all licensees complete 24 hours of continuing education, CE, every 2 years, as outlined in ARS Section 32213-0E. This requirement ensures that agents remain up to date on legal, ethical, and market developments. Failing to maintain current knowledge or giving outdated advice could also be viewed as a lack of competence under ARS Section 32-2153A3. The rule of competence is not intended to discourage helping clients, but rather to establish professional boundaries that safeguard the integrity of the licensee's role. For example, if a licensee is asked whether a home's septic system meets ADEC standards, it is proper to explain that the system must comply with Arizona Administrative Code Title 18, Chapter 9. But the agent should refrain from providing any form of inspection analysis or certification. Similarly, if a client asks about legal remedies after discovering a defect post-closing, the agent may explain general contract principles, but must not interpret the contract's enforceability or offer legal opinions. Maintaining competence also applies to specialized fields within real estate. A residential agent, for example, should not represent clients in complex commercial lease negotiations without proper training and supervision. A licensee unfamiliar with agricultural water rights should not advise clients purchasing farmland on irrigation entitlements. R4 28 1101H emphasizes that when agents lack sufficient expertise, they must either refer the client to a qualified professional or seek guidance from their designated broker. Review summary. Arizona law requires licensees to act competently, honestly, and within their area of knowledge. Licensees may not offer advice or services outside their field of expertise unless they engage or refer to qualified professionals. Doing so may constitute incompetence under ARS Section 322153A3 and violate R4281101H. The standard of practice for all licensees includes knowing when to refer clients to attorneys, inspectors, surveyors, engineers, tax professionals, or other specialists. By staying within their area of expertise and continuously updating their education, licensees protect clients, reduce liability, and uphold the professional standards of Arizona real estate. Discussion prompts. Why should a licensee avoid giving tax advice to a client about investment property? Answer: because tax advice falls outside the scope of a real estate license, and giving it could mislead the client or expose the licensee to liability. The proper course is to refer the client to a CPA. What should a licensee do if a client asks about whether a home's roof meets local building code? Answer: the licensee should avoid interpreting building codes and instead recommend that the client contact a licensed contractor or the local building department. How can continuing education help prevent violations of competence rules? Answer: it ensures that licensees stay informed about current laws, regulations, and ethical standards, helping them provide accurate and lawful guidance. Closing remarks. Competence in real estate practice means more than just knowing how to write a contract. It means recognizing when you have reached the edge of your professional boundaries. Arizona's laws and commissioner's rules remind licensees that credibility and trust depend on honesty, proper referrals, and ongoing education. A wise agent knows that saying, "I don't know, but I can connect you with someone who does," is not a sign of weakness. It is a hallmark of professionalism. By maintaining competence and referring clients to qualified professionals when appropriate, licensees honor their fiduciary duties and strengthen the integrity of the Arizona real estate profession.